and you give me your comments.
Yeah.
If, in your perspective, if the advisor was gonna come, what
Mm-hmm.
would you ask him?
What would we ask him? And regarding water systems or everything?
I would say everything.
Mm-hmm. Regarding everything. So the advisor, he's a specialist in blueberry production.
Yes,
Mm-hmm. Where's he from?
he's from Chile.
Chile. Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
he's senior. He's been doing this for more than 30 years. He has world experience. He does North America, South America, Europe. He's done Asia as well. So he has a big perspective on how the plant works in different stations of the world.
Uh-huh. He runs a blueberry operation and others, or like does he do multiple crops or just blueberries, or what's he do?
His main focus is berries,
Mm-hmm.
number one blueberries, but he can do most of the berries, talking raspberries,
Mm-hmm.
blackberries, strawberries.
Mm-hmm.
He's a complete agronomic advisor with experience with the biggest companies and also with entrepreneurs like me starting into this
Uh-huh.
adventure of the blueberries.
Is he um is he a personal friend, or are you paying him for consulting, or how does that work?
I'm paying for consulting, basically a fee each month.
Mm-hmm.
And when he visits, I pay for the trip. This is the first trip he does
Uh-huh.
officially with me. He has visited before, but just as an informal visit.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's advising me from the start of the project.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he's done all of this himself. He had a successful business operation and all that for many years. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I would say the biggest brands that you see in the supermarkets, he's been advisor to most of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what was the size of his operation when he did operate blueberries? Is he still, or the different fruits? Is he still doing that, or now he's in the information space?
Yeah, right now he's full agronomic advisor. He doesn't, I don't know if he owns farms,
Mm-hmm.
but he spends most of his time traveling.
Mm-hmm. When he did operate, do you know how many acres he had? What scale of operation?
I'm not sure about that specific information.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But you trust his judgment. He is world, like people all over the world in the community know him. He's the one of the leaders.
Yes, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk about high performance farms, he's one of the references that I have identified.
Mm-hmm. Does he publish? Does he have any published work?
He has his own website and he publishes sometimes on LinkedIn, but he's not much of a content guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good relationship when you are basically being his farm. I mean, he's being the mentor and I'm being the farm. It's an open relationship, and whatever I want to know, he has the answers with good results.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't publish very much.
Can you send me a link to his website?
Yeah, right now.
Mm-hmm. How's he? Did you discuss with him the notions of open source, or is he how is he? What is his take on open source?
I have sent some information about what we've been working with,
Mm-hmm.
and I gotta wait when he comes because he's honestly traveling most of the day. So he
Mm-hmm.
has seen the information. He really likes it. He's in the farmer side. So whatever brings more control and profit to the farmer, that he's open to that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna pitch his website.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you're gonna find a lot of information there, but
Good practice. Is that him in the center?
yeah, that's him.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can see, he's done hydroponics and also he has done soil blueberries.
Mm-hmm.
And he's very do more with less. So with the past advisors I had, and when I start going with his, I would say recommendations, I basically cut cost of fertilizers one third or half of it with more efficient plants.
You've already accomplished that.
Yes, I mean with the recommendations I had before, and the recommendations I'm doing now and what I see on the health of the plant and the
Mm-hmm.
development, it's very clear that he has the capacity to understand each plant stages and what it really needs. It's not just putting all the fertilizers that maybe it needs, is understanding what it really needs the plant at that stage.
Mm-hmm.
Same same thing with water. Volume, it's very different than past recommendations I have seen in other farms that I visit, and also with the advisors I used to work before.
Mm-hmm. Is he familiar with desalination, the reverse osmosis part?
Yeah, he knows about water.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What do we ask him? What's the first question that comes to your mind when that you want to ask him?
I would say filament biochar.
Filament biochar. Uh, as a growth medium, and I mean, pump him about. You can ask him to review all those notions. I mean, basically the meeting that we had with respect to the notion that, oh, if you embed some biochar, how would you assess, how do you think about biochar embedded filament as a growth medium? Does it have the required properties? So start with the kind of research you did from chat regarding the different properties, and ask them
Yes,
specifically, like, okay, does this actually provide a great habitat? If you say you've got up to 30% fill of biochar and filament, what is that? Is that good enough? How much? Ask him for his input on how much he thinks that would actually work. Has he ever heard of it? Has he heard of that? Has he ever considered other growth media? Does he do the industry standard, or is he very creative? He does all kinds of out of box things.
yeah, he has the ability to adapt
Mm-hmm.
to conventional growth media like cocoa coir or perlite,
Mm-hmm.
and to other mediums that he have tried.
Mm-hmm.
So he's open to it. It's just presenting the solution, testing with him. He knows the physiology, how a root works, how are the plant stages on each part of the season.
Mm-hmm.
It's just understanding, presenting the open source solution,
Mm-hmm.
and finding a way to validate it with his expertise.
So
I
do
know
you?
it's not,
Go ahead.
sorry,
Sorry. Go ahead.
I know it's not something very difficult. I just wanted to grab your mind and how would you approach this opportunity to be with a world class advisor and be able to present the solutions to him?
You would want to take what we did in our Google Doc and refine it to the most highest level of detail possible. So diagram it as carefully as you can, so he has something meaningful that he can review. So in a clear way, you need to communicate to him, for example, on our pot design. We did a very rough sketch. You would want to take that sketch and add as much detail in the remaining time as possible, so he can get into the details as much as possible. So you can include things like costs and performances and expected results, and ask them very specific questions like, okay, does this actually have this potential to reduce cost to zero marginal? Does he even think that's possible? Or he might say, oh, now you're missing this thing or something else. So try to have him poke hole, because we've got an exciting program. You and I, we talk about it, we get excited. Now you got to ask him, okay, this is exciting. So you got to simply ask him, what's wrong with it? How is this too good to be true? And it may turn out that in fact it's not too good to be true. It's real. Or he may say, no, you're missing this. So we're looking for gaps. We're looking for things that we cannot see in our optimist abundance mindset, right? If he has more experience, he'll be prejudiced to things that work. We have, or I'll speak for myself, I have no experience, therefore I can come up with creative solutions. I look at myself as a beginner at all times. So, but critique is useful in the sense that he will say, okay, well, he tried this and that maybe did not work, or worked such and such. Then you can then ask him, like, if he thinks that, for example, it doesn't work, then ask him about the very specifics of why. Just make sure you understand the feedback that he gives you. It's very clear to you.
Okay.
But you need to give him as substantial content and as clear content to make the time with him precious. In other
I
words,
get that.
quick communication of what we came up with, so that you're not spending all the time communicating to him. He can grasp it immediately, and then you let him talk.
And that's what I want to achieve. And that's why I got this question, because when I go into the wiki of open source, I see you have very clear communication with the diagrams and the drawings and the explanations. So I
Mm-hmm.
want to take that example
Mm-hmm.
and do it with information we have been working with,
Yeah.
but don't
Yeah.
know where to start
You don't know where to start?
regarding the diagrams.
Well,
How
take very if you brought up the biochar growth medium, draw out in as much do this maybe for Monday. Take that simple that little dirty, quick and dirty diagram we drew up of the basic components, the bottom, the whatever, the cavity. Detail it as much as possible, and possibly detail a couple of versions. Like one maybe where we just fill the whole thing with with the 3D printed stuff. It gets down to this level of flesh out more detail, so it's not like, oh, this is the kind of mess of media with 30% biochar. Get Describe it as much detail as possible. Like, okay, each pot has like 1.5 kilograms of this. It takes X hours to print. The cost of the biochar in there is this. This is how I'm getting the biochar. I think a lot of it goes down to geometry, like how we're actually designing it. So you have to. How good are you at diagramming, just drawing things in simple Google Docs? I mean, Google Docs, where you can do all kinds of line diagrams, shapes, free, like line with multiple points. So you're drawing things by hand, just like we've been doing in in our sessions. Just very simple things, but just try to detail it as much as possible. So does that make any sense? Or
it does. I'm just thinking about the exploded diagram
mm-hmm,
where you can show all the pieces. So in
mm-hmm,
the case of
mm-hmm.
the biochar filament, how how would you approach this since we haven't made it yet?
Mm-hmm. Well, you would say we have to make it, because I don't think anybody makes it. So we say you start with, this is, I would start with this is a commercial extruder that we want to perhaps buy, which allows us to mix the filament and then appropriate proportions of biochar, and we're just extruding that. And you can say your test plan is, okay, we would source this extruder and make that 3D printing filament embedded with biochar. Here's our costs. Here's our benchtop experiment. I mean, we got to get to that filamenting. So thinking about the smallest benchtop kind of experiment that we can test that, because he might be like, no, I have no idea if that's going to work. Or you can research much more about it, like the research more about it, and this is where actually like Joshua Pierce's people might be relevant. How far did you get in a research online with chat as far as what the prospects of this are? Did you read through a lot of those papers, or
What do you mean by prospects?
say it again?
What do you mean by prospect?
What are the prospects, i.e., what is the indication in the literature about how feasible this actually is? Is this a far-fetched idea, just purely
It's
conceptual?
feasible. It's been done. It's feasible.
Yeah, it's feasible. So you basically say, okay, I'm going to take the result of this paper. This is the documented data we have to go on. And from there, you can extrapolate to your current case. So, for example, what were the types of results? They were saying that, what's an example of a result that made it, okay, this is real and possible? What was that?
Herbs, basically, basil. even lettuce. They try to do, well, they didn't try, they did it. They made like certain figures of small circles, like balls,
Mm-hmm.
made with biochar and extruded plastic, and it worked with the root development and as well with the absorption of the root. So that was a successful experiment of a growing media.
Was that filament mixed with biochar, or was it just like
Yes,
plain filament and balls of biochar? Or did they actually
I
mix that biochar right into the plastic?
I can remember that specific data.
Okay, so you probably want to just review that as much as possible and just take his feedback on it, because I mean he's not going to be, once again, like someone who's a good advisor. They're going to have all the experience in the world. They can give you good insight, but it could be quite likely that this is, he doesn't have a lot of experience with this, and he hasn't tried it. If he hasn't done it himself, then you're just listening to, it's kind of like, if he doesn't have the direct experience, his knowledge may be limited. But that's where I think you would have to propose to him, you, like you're educating me about certain things, you're educating him, like, okay, this is, think about it, it's a two-way thing. You're educating him. That means you have to step back into a little bit of research and feed him interesting nuggets that he can then take further. So it's a collaborative relationship. You're both feeding each other. If you get to that kind of state, then you'll get more out of him, I would say. That's my take on it. Because if he's an idea guy now consulting and advising, then he'll have the ability to think and think in patterns, so he can put those patterns together. But you have to feed him enough content to get meaningful patterns, for him to recognize meaningful patterns.
Okay, I have that clarity now, how to approach this. I was just looking for the answers on how to develop the specifics, like the diagrams.
Mm-hmm. What I would
And
do is, how
yes,
you see our diagrams that have like 100 bubbles, like item one, like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like label as many things in one diagram as possible. Because typically I would say idea guys are good at mind mapping, so they can assess, like they can really scan that pretty rapidly and get the most out of that information. So I would say potentially overload that your diagram with so much information that he has a lot. I mean, just give enough detail, not just say, oh, what do you think of this pot, and you show him kind of the stuff we had. No, just add much more annotation to it, so he can provide meaningful feedback.
got it.
hmm I
Okay,
think of it as kind of like, when you have exploded part diagrams, like in a machine manual, you have an exploded part diagram, which is like 100 different arrows to different parts. I think that's where you want to get to with the pot system, because it's all those details, the combination of those details, that will make it work versus not. So you have to shake down which of those items are actually going to work and are good, so that the next diagram you present to him is going to have much more refined content. Because right now we're shooting in the dark. Like, I don't know about it. We have ideas of what could work, but you got to basically have him take that diagram with 100 bubbles and have him shoot down 50. You know, and then you're extracting stuff, the components that actually are meaningful, workable. Yeah. You,
agree. And just being really focused on what really needs to be the innovation to happen. It's the biochar filament and it's the water reloop system.
mm-hmm,
The rest, I know it has been done. I
mm-hmm,
mean, the sensors, the water systems,
mm-hmm,
all of that has been done before.
mm-hmm,
I would say the big validation would be, again, the biochar filament
mm-hmm,
and the pot with the reloop water system, the closed loop systems,
mm-hmm.
I meant.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna focus on that because I know that the rest we can 3D print it and we can make it happen.
Mm-hmm. I would say look at it like, give him a model of, if you had a commercial grade machine, look at its outputs and look at all the costs of the biochar involved, and now just make a proposition. Here's the cost for the at the say the 50 hectare scale or whatever, like this is going to be my predicted cost, and it's the economics are outrageously good. Is this true, or am I chasing down a wrong path? So he can probably give you that kind of feedback, whether it's like he's excited about it versus like, no, this is just BS. This is not how it works, or something. So you want to get to that kind of critique as soon as possible. But I think for that you have to, I think the bigger propositions that you make, like for example, okay, if I did 50 hectares of this and I invest, say $30,000 in this extruder and such, and my production costs for this filament in this automated operation, because 3D printers are pretty much automated and you can automate the shredders and filament makers. Here's what I'm doing. What do you think about the feasibility of this? Yeah.
At the end, the output is feasibility. That's what I'm looking for. His comments and his analysis on feasibility of all the innovations we're looking to do.
Yeah, I mean, because without that, we would just go ahead and prove them. We might go into dead ends, but the idea is to test and fail as soon as possible. So quick ways to fail, to experiment and fail, I think are pretty important. So in the practice of it, it's like, okay, let's get that printer built ASAP. Just get this tested, like whether it's replicating. If the papers that you read have a good formula for the soil already, how do they do it? I mean, is it just a simple thing where you buy some things and mix it together? Do that immediately, and see, maybe that actually works for your blueberries or whatever, or we have to modify it. Okay, well we need a different system to do that, and so forth. So you want to be testing as quickly as possible, so you can get through a lot of ideas quickly. Chat can, I think, also help you go through experiments where your thought partners thought experiments where you just helping with help of chat, you're just shaking down, okay, I want to do this and that. How is that going to work? I think chat can do a lot. I mean, I don't know how good chat would be compared to your advisor, but if you have very good questions, I think chat can probably be really good because it analyzes all the literature for you, right?
Yeah, I think the chat has a lot of ideas, but besides comparing to the advisor, it's not going to hallucinate the advisor. That's going to be the only difference.
Yeah, it's not going to hallucinate. But
your advisor
is not going to hallucinate.
Hopefully, yes.
Whereas you're saying that the chats, the AIs, they tend to go off into crazy stuff, right?
At some point, yes. Still getting better each day, of course. But when you analyze the whole conversation, there are some warning signs on certain data that they give.
Yeah. So for the irrigation, I mean, take the same diagrams that we already have, annotate them, clean them up. That's also
okay.
I mean, you can definitely do that. You can take what we already have, you review what we talked about, and that way you can actually, by reviewing and writing down. Are you going to do like a little presentation for him, or?
Yes, I'm going to work on the work document. I think I'm going to refine it, add all this information that you mentioned, leave at max 7 slides. They're going to be the real slides to work on, and the rest are going to be just references, and do it from there. I don't want to create a new document. That's a goal.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I would say that would be the topic of today. I know maybe it wasn't very exciting like the other calls, but now it's time to hands to work.
Yeah. No, that's good. I'm excited that we're talking about these things and actually considering these things as potential realities.
Yeah, I see a lot of potential, and as a reality too. It would be, in my perspective, just that tweaking of this idea to make it happen with each specific plant. If it has worked with other plants, blueberry is still a plant.
Yeah, it's basically endurance It's grit. That's all it is. It's you just continue at it until you get it. Mm-hmm.
Right. So for next call, Thursday, I will have very specific data on what I'm going to start building.
Excellent. With your advisor's feedback.
Sorry, can you repeat?
With your advisor's feedback. Feedback, so you're going to get feedback regarding the recirculation and the biochar growing medium. You're going to get some answers on that primarily, and then we're going to think about, okay, what are we going to actually start prototyping?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And based on tools, it's going to be a 3D printer. I would say a pyrolysis machine and a plastic extruder. Those are going to be my three best friends, I guess.
Pyrolysis, you talking about for fuel?
No, for making biochar.
For biochar. Mm-hmm.
Taking wood
Mm-hmm.
that I have access to and make it biochar from there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there might be a case for a pelletizer to make the biochar in a form that would be a very exciting thing, and that is a part you come off the shelf pelletizer. You're starting with wood chips, wood sawdust, if you can. You press it into pellets because then it's a very controllable, flowable fuel. So as opposed to charcoal, which has got like bulk briquettes, you have this very fine, flowable medium that is more controllable. Potentially, like if you want to do that, the pelletizer route allows you to probably build a machine that is smaller scale because you can handle the materials in a much more controlled way because pellets are tiny and they flow like a fuel, you know? It's a flowable, I call it like, it's the closest to gasoline that you can get because it's a flowable fuel, meaning you can auger it and deposit it into your burn chamber or whatever. Like if it's char and you're running a car on wood gas, on char gas, then you can easily auger and feed the engine with that kind of a fuel. So that's the point about pellets, pellet form. So if you're burning, partial burn, you're doing pyrolysis upon pellets, then you got output of pellets that are charred as a flowable fuel. Does the concept of flowable fuel make sense to you?
But now, because I don't understand the concept on how to apply it, I was meaning pyrolysis because I understood that that's the concept of taking out the oxygen and just
Mm-hmm.
leaving the carbon. And
Yeah.
pellets, I understand as a form, as
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
geometry.
Yeah. It's a
But what you're
geometry.
talking about, new concept.
Yeah. It's just the geometry of what you're going to produce, and it may be a possible good route to take when you talk about bulk production of, like say, automated bulk production of biochar. That might be the way to go because then you can design machines that are smaller scale because the material you're handling is easier to handle. Yeah,
Yes,
these are
that's a
getting,
big thing. No,
yeah.
no, that's very big. What I did today, it's I moved cocoa coir for about 2 hours. So if I can make a more practical way to move the growing media, that's a big thing.
Yeah, it is. It is. So, like, say you deposit, for example, if you have that char in pellet form, you're talking about a conveyor or auger automatically filling your pots. That could be, however we do that. So I'm just saying it can flow, it can be deposited in a controllable way, therefore lending itself to automation.
That's something that's going to happen too. I
Mm-hmm.
see it now, and that's very needed. So actually, the cocoa coir comes in pellets, like in square, but the difference is that you have to prepare the cocoa coir. You have to put water
Mm-hmm.
so it expands,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have to put calcium so it activates.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be something new. It'd just be an adaptation of a different material.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
agree what you mentioned.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. So you think you can do a good presentation for? Is that kind of clear? So diagram with a lot of think about a diagram with a lot of bubbles attached to it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's very clear.
Yep.
I'll work on that, and I'll see you next week for
Okay.
sure, if you have the time.
Absolutely. Let's continue this, and we'll talk soon. So yeah, hopefully that goes well for you next week. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Marcin.
Okay.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye bye.